JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Wednesday, January 7, 9/19 on this fine morning. Talk quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at go from there. S&P futures slightly in the green here, mixed, slightly red overnight and in the morning. And I guess the best way to describe it is mixed right now. We'll see how today plays out. Yesterday, markets opened flat, rallied right out of the gate, then dipped to lows by about 11 o'clock, and then off to the races. Solid day, back-to-back sessions into the solid green. Great start to 2026. The Dow 1% rally yesterday, and what does the rest of the week bring? This morning ADP report, nothing surprising there. 10 o'clock we get the JOLTS report, so the job openings. It's to me, it's like if there's any data point that everybody's looking at, it used to be inflation, or it still is inflation, but it seems like the jobs report is taking more of an importance because quite honestly, if jobs was not a concern back in the summer, the Powell probably wouldn't have cut rates, and probably he would not have a judge. Somehow he'd be removed, right? But because of that jobs concern, it's give the ability for the Fed to cut rates. And it's like if we have a strong jobs report on Friday, my concern is that might be the start of some kind of bigger pull. So hopefully that's not the case. We get the JOLTS report later today. So I hate to hope for not a lot of openings or what have you. I don't want to see a strong number on Friday. So we'll see how that plays out. Then next week we have, we get services PMI at 10 o'clock today as well. And then next week is earnings season Tuesday. Banks kick off Wednesday, and then the following Tuesday is as Netflix. So should be interesting. The big backdrop yesterday, outside of all the chitter chatter still around Venezuela and how that all plays out, is the memory, right? Take a look at SanDisk yesterday. I mean, here it is at if I told you it was at 353 last week, you'd probably laugh at me. Outside of some kind of M&A news or whatever, here is at 341. So who knows if there's continuation? But outside of that, it's been the same names: the AI, the data center space names. Banks started to participate in the rally yesterday, and then some of these oversold names. And you look at Kava going nuts yesterday, the last couple sessions. At some point there'll be some kind of pull. I keep talking about, especially the last couple of rants. I'm trying to be selective because there's going to be some kind of pull that just kills premiums, and it's going to be a frustrating day because the fun days are the days where stocks keep melting up and you're in calls and they keep going and going, right? The first couple of days of a trade, like I'll take RH for an example, I was on a Rant yesterday morning and my calls were flat, right? Or barely in the green. And then we had the big day yesterday. In the 215s, I was able to close them out for 600%. And in hindsight, we'll see what happens here today. It runs up to 220. Maybe I'll be kicking myself, but even if it goes to 220, the premiums might not be enough to warrant to hold the strikes into today because they expire on Friday. But my point is, if there's some kind of pull in the market, RH could be down to $200 and the premiums will be gone. So don't want to be in a spot where even if we just have a little pull of some of these names that I'm in, take a little tumble. I mean, same with Serve Robotics, right? It's been strong, up 26% year to date. I don't want to be in a spot with those pull. All right, so that's overall 693 on the SPY, possible resistance if we get up there. 686 support if we get some selling. I don't think that's a probability, but if it does happen, certainly going to be adding some put hedges just because I think there'll be more follow through to the downside. Also of note, it's all about this lack of bad breath. I don't know if I posted the chart like that. 10% of 10 names in the S&P were majority of the gains over the last couple of years. I don't know where that chart is, but if you're looking for market breadth, the amount of stocks trading over their 50-day moving average hit highs not seen since August. So you can make the case that bodes well for further upside. Follow the trend. The trend is your friend. Anyway, so we'll see what happens there. All right, that's kind of overall markets. Now just individual names. I was talking about RH, and I was talking about on the Rant yesterday afternoon. I'm not going to sit here and tell you with 100% certainty what happens if the Supreme Court rules on Friday, if they rule, but I would give a pretty high probability the Supreme Court's going to weigh in on the tariffs on Friday. If they nix that, if they say those are illegal, which I think there's a 70% probability right now, I don't know if RH goes bonkers. I don't know if RH sells off. I don't know if it just doesn't even react. Of course, I'm in the call, so my hope is it goes bonkers, and I think there's a possibility. So with that being said, RH was at 205 on Monday, couldn't break through, and then we had that last 20-minute sell-off. Held them into yesterday, thankfully, and then boom, it was 205, and then just kept going at 11 o'clock, 210, 212, got up to 213. I locked some in to cover costs, then 400%, then I locked some more in for 600%. I had a few left, and then as we got towards the end of the day, I'm like, again, I don't want to be in a spot where we have the last 20-minute pull goes from 213 back to 200. So I locked the last of those in, and then I got strikes into next week. So those are up 50%. Let me just, I didn't even see what the last little trade on those were. Obviously, my trading plan has been to lock some in to cover costs and ride the rest. Yeah, they're up about 50%. So we'll see how today plays out. If I get a chance to close some in to cover cost, I will. 215 was kind of my spot. I thought over 215 was a good target. Hopefully there's overshoot here. Maybe it continues to go. You start looking at levels back at the September 260. And, I was saying over 200 for the last couple of weeks on its earnings. So hopefully the start of some bigger move here on RH. And the good thing is, if it is, the premium is going to get heck a lot more expensive. And obviously the calls I'm in will be very nice. All right, so that's RH. So robotics, similar story here with RH. I didn't want to be in a spot with my January strikes where they finally take a little pull. And with Serve, it could trade down to $12 and they'll destroy the 13 calls because they're not in the money. So I took the last of those 13 strikes in for over 100%. I still have the March strikes. I locked more in for 300%. I'll just hold those. I might look to get more strikes if it holds up here today. 1375 is the key spot. The March 20s look interesting on a risk reward basis, so I might nibble those. And then at the open yesterday, I'm back in NKLR. NKLR is one of those prototypical lotto plays. It can be a stock. It's pre-revenue. It might not have revenues for the next 5 years, right? But it's an energy story. It's a great story in regards to that whole space. And you take a look at some of the similar names in the space that have went bonkers. It has the same attributes. Obviously, if it was if there was more folks who believed that it could pull a similar move as OKLO, it would be up substantially higher than where it is now. So I traded it back after its SPAC deal, traded for some profits. Then I've been waiting, and finally pulled the trigger on some spec lottos. If it finds a bid here today, I might look for some more strikes because inexpensive now. If it gets some mojo, I could see it going 10, 12, $15. So all right, that's NKLR. At the same token, it might sit here and trade at $5 for the next 3 months. So can't rule that out either. So that's hence the lotto description there. All right, we got 3 minutes to the open, so I don't have too much time left. Baidu, still looking to add some more strikes here on Baidu. They announced that $2 billion listing yesterday, overnight on the Hong Kong exchange. It was at 152 overnight, down here 147. Good sign that it's holding its gains. Frustrating. I'm still in some strikes, so hopefully it finds a bid here today. If it does, maybe I'll look for some strikes there. Got those SE calls. Have time. Unfortunately, it was 146 when I got them, all the way up to 148, and then it pittered for the rest of the day. Great story, especially if Asia stocks rally. And that's it. Trying to think of something. I'm still looking to get out of my SG call, so I might, even if I can get them out flat today, I might do that. And let's have a great day, folks. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.